Suave.
I've been in my bag for a while, I'm invincible. Story of a young boss, grinding shit get critical. Calling on my bros one time, cause you special. I had some hoop dreams of right rounds for my mentor. Every target that I shoot is on point like a pencil. Different road, changed relationships, I'm so sorry. Came up from the trenches and I made it, I say hardly. Now
Football is back, and BetOnline is your #1 information source for all of your sports wagering info with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From Week 1 all the way to the college football playoffs and Super Bowl, BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Alrighty, guys, we are back with another episode of the What's in Your Bag podcast presented by Bet Online. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Robinson, and before we introduce our guest for today, you know we got to get the business out of the way. If you guys have been following along the show, then you already know what's coming next. Make sure you guys stop what you're doing. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest with a wonderful, wonderful conversation. So make sure you guys tap that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. It goes a long way. Drop some comments, give us some feedback on the interview. We always appreciate that. That was my guy, Pull Up Tay, on the intro. It's going to be him as well on the outro. Make sure you guys are streaming his music. He's one of the hottest up-and-coming artists out of the DMV. If you're in this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, make sure you guys follow the show, give us a 5-star rating. It goes a very, very long way. But now that we got the business out of the way, we are very, very pleased to introduce our guest today. This is somebody who super accomplished in the media space, somebody who is well-traveled. We're super excited to just talk about the things that she's been able to do throughout her career. This is somebody who I think, obviously, a lot of you guys might know her from her work with Overtime, but we are pleased to be joined by the talent and social media manager of Overtime, Maya Reese. Maya, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Yes, as are we. Man, we got a lot to discuss, but I always like to do a little temperature check, before we get into it. We're also joined by my wonderful co-host, Alexis Davis, who, she's in the doghouse right now because she's wearing her little Dallas Cowboys gear. So, we might be disowning her, y'all. This might be her last episode, but, Alexis, what's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Just going to ignore all the Cowboys banter. But anyway, we always have some noise, so that's fine.
Yes. Listen, we're gonna pray for her, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I know that she's a little misguided, but we're gonna lift her up in a prayer and pray that we deliver her from her Cowboys fandom. Okay, y'all. Oh man, but like I said, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the interview, I always like to just do a little check in. So Maya, man, how was the summer? I feel like when it comes to the sports and all that, like I'm hooping, so I feel like the offseason for me is kind of a little bit of a downtime. But I felt when you're in content and when you're in the media, there really is no like downtime or off season. So how was your summer? What were some of the things you got to kind of do? If you had to pick a favorite part of the summer, favorite event you got to cover, like what would you say?
Sheesh. Yeah, definitely no downtime. Content is year round. I would say my summer was pretty good. The highlight moment, probably, I worked my first WNBA All-Star. So I'm from Chicago. They had it in Chicago last year, but I wasn't here, so I didn't get to work it because I was in Houston. So this year I got to go to All-Star. It was in Vegas, and it was amazing. I had a brand partnership deal with Nike, so I went out there, worked some of their events, went to the All-Star game, but then went to Summer League games. So that was fun. And I met like a bunch of NBA players and WNBA players and sports influencers. So it was fun for me because I usually work from home. So I feel like I'm not always in the mix. So it was nice to go to this event and then meet people that I follow online. And then now we actually know each other in real life.
Yeah. I feel like Summer League always call it like the basketball convention. Everybody kind of goes there and links up and meets each other for the first time. What was your take on just Vegas this year, Summer League? Because, obviously, like you mentioned, it also ran into the All-Star weekend for WNBA as well. So what was your take on the whole, Vegas Summer League season this year?
Vegas was fun. For me, I was excited because obviously I work at overtime, so we have OTE. So we had the Thompson twins. They were the number 4 and number 5 draft pick this year. So to go out there and see them hoop, I've seen them hoop, but like I feel like the world hasn't really seen them hoop. So for people to see them compared to the rest of their draft class and see how they stand out, that was exciting until one of them got injured, which sucked. But I think he's better now. So it was just fun to see them in comparison to everybody else. And then the WNBA, that's always fun just because I love to see when men support the women. So like even at the events, like KD was there and you could tell like he actually knows women's sports and was talking to them like, yeah, you really got to get in your bag and blah, blah, blah. Like he wasn't just there, but he was actually supporting. So that's always fun because I work in women's sports. So we like to see that the men use their platform to uplift the women.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Now, we're talking a bit about this off air, but all three of us kind of have some ties to the DMV. Me and Alexis being DMV natives, and you being a Howard alum. So, talk about your time in the DMV. Any you remember any favorite spots you used to check out back in the city? Because in my humble opinion, DC, you know what I'm saying, nightlife is very very lit down here. Good Sunday brunch, Law Society Park. I mean, it gets a little crazy out here. So. Just talk about your time in DMV at Howard, man. Do you have any favorite spots that you remember you guys used to go to?
That's a good question. I think, well, first of all, okay, I love the DMV. It's great vibes. But being from Chicago, I feel like Chicago is like the DMV like on crack. Like the Chicago nightlife is crazy. The Chicago food is crazy. So for me, it's always hard to go to another city and fully immerse myself because I just love Chicago so much. So to be out there, it was fun. It was cool. I didn't go to brunch a lot though, which I know is like their thing. Like everybody's like, oh my God, Sunday brunch, Sunday brunch. I didn't go to brunch a lot because I had a job. I interned every single semester of college. So even like from freshman year all the way through senior year, I always had a job. And then when I was on campus, I did like the school newspaper, the television station, the journalism association. So like I was always in an org where it's like, oh, we have this event this day, this event this day. So I didn't really get to fully go out. I would go out if it's like, oh, it's my friend's birthday. But that was still bad because like, okay, it's my friend's birthday. Let me go to work and then get off and then go out. Then when I get home, I still got homework to do because I have class at 8 a.m. So it was like, that taught me a lot about how to do like the work-life balance, I would say, which helps me now that I have a job. I'm able to still like have a fun life, travel a lot, and do work. So that was my biggest takeaway from Howard is just learning how to like be an individual and a student and a worker. But I guess places to visit, I just really like their mumbo sauce. Like it was so good. But that's similar to mild sauce in Chicago. So it's like they're like neck and neck. And now they said, I don't know if it was Wendy's or McDonald's, but like some big chain is
McDonald's.
releasing. McDonald's, yeah. They're doing one with it said mambo sauce. It was like a mix of Chicago and DC sauce. So that's either gonna be fire or really weird and irritating. But I'm gonna try it.
No, facts. Definitely looking forward to that for sure. I don't know, man. I feel like being authentic, DMV mumbo sauce, man. McDonald's better not ruin it. They better not ruin it. I would be very upset if they ruin it.
It's hard to make.
Nah, facts. So kind of getting into your journey and your story, right? Like I want to talk about the beginning. Like take us back. Like how did you get into the media? Like did you play sports when you were younger? Because I feel like for me, I played sports my whole life. And for me, my introduction to the media space was I wanted to kind of have a platform or avenue to stay around the game outside of basketball. So I feel like I always loved to debate sports. I always loved to talk about sports. So the media was the easiest platform for me to do that. So for you, like talk about, how you first got introduced into the media, the sports world. Like, do you remember the first moment you were like, yo, like I want this to be my job and my career going forward?
Yeah, I never thought I was going to end up in sports. Like that wasn't my goal. Like, oh, I want to be this huge, big sport personality. Like that's never been my goal really. when I was little, if I would get in trouble, like as a little kid and do something bad, my mom would make me write an essay about what I did, why I did it, why I was wrong, why I shouldn't do it again, like lessons learned. And then she would grade it and then be like, here, go do it again. So like even as a young age, like I was always writing. So I used to love to write. So then once I played basketball and volleyball growing up. Once I got to high school, I did my school newspaper. And then my senior year, I interned at the local TV station. And that was when I was like, okay, maybe I want to change my route from journalism to broadcast journalism. So that was in high school. So then I went to Howard for broadcast journalism. And then while I was there, like I said, I was involved with a bunch of different stuff. Like I had a radio show, a TV show. I started a podcast. I was just doing a bunch of different stuff, but it was never sports. It was just like, I thought I was going to do entertainment because that's always been fun for me. So I would do like culture stuff, arts, entertainment, music, TV, film, those sort of reviews and updates. And it wasn't until, I don't know if it was my sophomore or junior year, but I tried to get this job at E! News. And I was so nervous because like I wanted to do entertainment. So I was talking to the lady, but I was just like so awkward and scared and like, yeah, no, I love it. And da, 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 da. And then that same day I had an interview with NBC Sports and I didn't care as much. So I was cool. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it would be fun. I love the Bulls. The Bears are okay. Like I was my normal self. And that's the job I ended up getting, a sports job. So then from there, like NBC paid for me to live in New York that summer. I interned with NBC Sports. And then from there, the next semester, I was at NBC Sports in DC. So then from there, it just kind of, I stayed in the sports lane. So then I was doing sports internships over and over and over. And then I was a TV news reporter for a couple of years. And then from there, I worked the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics. And then from there, I won an Emmy for doing the Tokyo Olympics. And then I made my way to overtime. So now I'm at OT. I've been there for 2 years. I graduated college 4 years ago. So it's been like, I feel like 4 years isn't that long. It sounds old when you say it, but I'm still relatively kind of new in my career now.
Yeah. So when you were at Howard trying to get all these different internships and just really making sure that you were, making that professional dive in, I know sometimes that can be hard for a lot of students to, get internships or like, you see your friends posting internships and like you see them posting their little dumps in the summer, but like you might not have exactly what you did. So what were some things that you kind of did to just kind of be intentional? I know you make like a couple of content videos about how to secure these things, but what would you say were really like the things that set you apart when you have like hundreds of kids going after these same roles?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, the one thing is that I was never intimidated by a job listing, if that makes sense. So like let's say I was there for 4 years, it's 2 semesters a year. So that's 8 internships. So I did 8 internships in college, but each semester I would apply for probably 50 positions. Like it wasn't like, oh, okay, I think this looks like a good job here. Let me apply for this one and hope I get it. I would apply to like 50 jobs and be like, okay, it's Saturday. By the end of today, I want to make sure I apply to 15 jobs. And then the next Saturday, okay, I want to get 15 jobs today. Okay, the next Saturday, let me do 20 because I haven't heard back. Like I would just apply literally everywhere that kind of fit where I want it to be. And I think one thing that helped also is that at each company, I wouldn't apply to multiple jobs. They say that people don't like that because it's like, oh, she just wants anything, not this actual position. So I would take the time to look through all of the job listings at a company and then be like, okay, I think this one aligns the most with my skills and the direction I'm trying to go. So let me apply for this one at this company, this one at this company, this one at this company. And eventually, if you apply to 50, you're gonna get at least like 7 interviews. And of those 7, you might get 1, you might get 2, you might get 3 offers. Like the offers will eventually start to roll in. I think the more experience that you have, the more it helps. But also for people where it's like freshman year, nobody has experience for real. But at the same time, nobody has experience for real. So like we're all starting off at around the same level. So for me, I would just go out and find different ways to make content. So even if I was applying to like a political thing, like I did Fox News on Capitol Hill in DC. So I worked at Fox. When I was doing that, I would still go and I would pitch a political story at the local newspaper, like on Howard's campus. So that way I have this political article that I could submit. So I would try to make content that kind of fit the mold of the jobs that I knew that I was applying for. So that way when they're like, hey, what experience do you have? Oh, here I have these, these 3 work pieces that I could submit. So it was really just being intentional with the work I did, where I applied, and then casting a really wide net. And then once they start to come in, like eventually you got to a point to where it's like, I know I'm about to get something. Like, I know I'm gonna get something. So like probably by like junior year, at that point, I started to be picky about where I was gonna go because I was getting a lot of offers.
Right.
So when you were applying to all these places, what was kind of that thing that, actually, let me rephrase this. So when you were applying to these different places and, you were getting the no's mixed in with the yeses, how were you able, because of course, even if you're applying for a lot of different things, you still have like, okay, I definitely want to do this. Like, these are my top 3. How did you kind of deal with those no's and like not bring your confidence down so that you still, had high energy in those other interviews, even if you didn't get like your number 1 or your number 2?
I would just ignore the no's, like literally just ignore them, because at the end of the day, even if places said no, they're not saying like, no, we don't want you because you suck. It could just be a no, not right now. So there was one place, like I really wanted to work at NBC Sports Washington, and I applied every semester, and they would be like, no, no, no. We regret to inform you. And I'm like, dang. But it wasn't until like my senior year, and they're like, oh, hey, we love your experience. Come on. Like, here's an offer. So I would never look at no as in they're telling me no, or that I'm in a deficit somewhere, there's something wrong with me. It would just be like, okay, this isn't the opportunity for me right now. So it might happen in the future, it might not, but I just don't take it personal, because at the end of the day, if I apply to 50 places, even if I get 30 no's, like somebody's gonna say yes. So I would just ignore the no's and then just, okay, I got 5 no's today. So that means I need to apply to 5 more places tomorrow, because then I might get a yes from one of those.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, right? Because I feel like when it comes to the media, when it comes to really just life in general, people always say, your network is your net worth. And people talk so much about relationships and how, knowing somebody can get you in the door here and there. And I feel like as 3, African-American individuals that are all in this media space trying to get opportunities and things like that, a lot of times I feel like it's harder for us to matriculate into these spaces because we might not have a lot of those connections, or know somebody who works at ESPN or whatever the case may be, to just provide a recommendation, or hey, this is my little cousin, whatever, can you give her a little, we don't have the opportunity to kind of get grandfathered in, if you will, at a lot of these spaces. So for somebody like yourself who has been able to get a lot of opportunities, you talked about how you kind of, sent all these emails and apply to all these positions, right? Applying to 50 jobs, every year and things like that, right? Like and I mean, you look at it now in hindsight, I mean, your resume is spectacular. You have those companies, the NBCs, the Olympics, overtime, obviously now, right, on your resume to where you really stand out. But just talk about, I guess, some of the challenges that you feel like also came along with trying to obtain these opportunities, because I feel like talking to my friends, a lot of times they always talk about, man, like, some people just like they can call on their uncle, their granddaddy that works at so-and-so company, and they're going to get a job regardless of their experience or their resume or whatever it may be. But a lot of times for us, it doesn't really go like that. So talk about your experience trying to move up that corporate ladder, and just what your overall experience with that has been like.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard sometimes, especially when you're in your earlier stages. I think for me, like the name Howard University, it's big, but it's big in Black culture, like to an extent. So when I was in DC, I'm going up against people where it's like, oh, I'm at Howard, like that's elite, sure. But then you also have these people from Georgetown and these people from, like other big schools in DC that are more known, that have alums there. And it's like, oh, okay, well, they're pulling their application like, hey, you got to check out this person, which it would be frustrating. But I think for me, it's more so like, for me, I don't like to ask people for stuff. So I'm not going to reach out to somebody and be like, hey, I would love if you could write me this letter of recommendation, because I know that you work at this company and I know that, you could potentially help. That's just me though. I don't like to ask people for stuff, but I know so many people to where that legitimately helped them, because if I say, oh, I'm a Howard grad, you can go on LinkedIn, look up the company and see, oh, okay, this person went to my university. Hey, so-and-so, nice to meet you. I'm at Howard as well. I would love if you could help me with yada, yada, yada. And typically they're willing to help. Like, that's one thing I would say I love about our community, like people of color, and then Howard specifically, they're always willing to lend out a reaching hand and help someone. So for me, I've never done that just because I don't want people to feel like they owe me something. But I have seen time and time again where a lot of my friends, they'll tap into their network, they'll reach out, they'll hear back, and the people do typically help. So it's a big skill that I've seen work multiple times. Just I don't use it in my personal life. Okay. But it can be frustrating, like you said, to see a lot of people get grandfathered in, or even like when I spent the summer at NBC, when I was in Connecticut, my resume, I'm like, yeah, I'm excited to be here, guys. This is my 5th internship. Like, I'm going to kill it, blah, blah, blah. My colleagues are like, oh, okay, well, this is my first. I'm just here and I'm just excited to be here. And I'm thinking like, how I was the only Black girl in my department. And then me and my friend who went to Howard were like one of maybe, it might have been like, let's say 6 Black people, 2 Black girls, 4 Black guys out of a group of like 200 people. And so for me, I'm thinking like, how did you end up here when you're saying, well, yeah, this is my first time. I'm just testing it out to see if I like it. I'm thinking like, I've been applying over and over and over and I never got it. But for me, it's like, you can't really pay attention to that, especially now, like social media can really get in your head. And so you'll see people posting over and over again, like, hey, I'm at this company. Hey, I'm at this. Hey, I'm at that. But at the end of the day, that just wasn't my path. So I would try to ignore people who, when you can tell, like, okay, you might not have necessarily gotten this job based off of your work experience or your merit, I would just ignore it, because it's like, I'm here. So I'm gonna focus on me. So that way I can use this position to propel me to the next level. And maybe I'll meet you there. Maybe you won't be there with me, but I know where I'm trying to go.
So with like being in college, a lot of HBCUs and just colleges in general, a lot of the faculty is a little bit older, and a lot of them just basically know about, writing for newspapers or being a local news reporter. That's basically what college trains you to be, either to be a newspaper writer or to be a local news reporter. And a lot of people, that want to be on air talent and doing TV, they don't want to start off in Montana working at some local news station making $22,000 just trying to make it. Like, that's not really what, a lot of people are looking to do now. So constantly being surrounded by those professors, and those are considered, the experts that you're around day in, day out. I guess kind of a 2-part question. First, how did you still find the courage to go after those non-traditional routes like complex, etc.? And then also, when you went to kind of do the local news route for a little bit, when you were there, what about that made you say like, no, I actually want to go back to the non-traditional route?
I feel like you're just in my head. Like, the professors and the faculty at Howard were always like, every single teacher, every class, they're like, yeah, because once you tap into that local news route, and then you go small market, and then, smaller market, and then you get to a medium size, then another medium, and then, by that 5th job, y'all gonna make it to a large market. And it's like, I don't want to wait 15 years to get to a cool job. Like, I will always tell them that, and they're like, I'm just telling you, come on, Maya, like, this is the traditional route. This is what works. I'm like, yeah, that's what worked in 1980. Like, this is 2019. Come on now. Like, this isn't how things work anymore. So yes, I understand what you mean 100%. And for me, even, it was hard because when I was trying to do my emphasis in sports, they didn't care. And so there was this organization that we had an NABJ chapter at Howard, and I was the vice president. So one of my tasks was to plan our media trip, where we go to New York, we look at all the media companies there and visit. And the faculty was like, okay, we can go to Bloomberg, and we can go to Fox and NBC and CBS. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Do you think we could add Bleacher Report or Complex maybe? And they're like, what's that? I'm like, oh, well, and then I would explain, well, Complex, they do entertainment. They have these YouTube shows. It used to be a magazine, but now they have all these shows, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, oh, okay, maybe. And it's like, all right, well, if you look at Bleacher Report, it's like ESPN, but it's younger and it's hip and it's fun and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay. Like it piqued their interest to an extent, but they still weren't really that excited. So eventually I got them to add Bleacher Report onto the agenda, and we came late because we had just left BET. So we were like 30 minutes late, and the teachers were like, okay, come on, guys, let's hurry up. And they were rushing the tour, but I'm thinking, like, me and the other guys there were like, no, like, this is what we're most excited to see. Like, they joined this trip to see this organization, and you're rushing us through it because we wasted a bunch of time earlier, or because you're trying to make it to be early for something that we're not interested in. But they didn't really understand that, and they didn't really care about sports. They just wanted us to do like local news or political news, which is fine because I've done it before. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but we wanted to talk about sports and entertainment. They didn't care. They were rushing it. So that, to me, it was really frustrating. I think that's one thing that's hard in college because you're our mentors. We look up to you. So if I say, yeah, I want to do sports, and they're like, I don't know about that. It's like, all right, well, now my dream is crushed. So that was definitely tricky, trying to get them to understand and to care and stop rushing so that we can learn the ins and outs of complex and a Bleacher Report like we just did with all these other older things from 1970. So yes, I understand what you're saying. It was tricky because they always push. They would say, like, yeah, go the local route. I never wanted to go to local TV. I've always said, like, from jump, I wanted to do digital media because digital media is what we do now. If something happens, I'm not going to go sit down and wait until 5, 6, or the 7 o'clock news. I'm going to go online. You literally can just look at it on Google, on social media, on the news apps. Like, there's so many ways to get news. If something happens at noon, I'm not going to wait until 6 o'clock to watch it. So for me, the local news, right, it wasn't something I wanted to do, but my teachers are like, come on, Maya, like, trust me, it'll work out. So I ended up going to a local NBC station in Wisconsin. It was in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And when I was there, I realized, like, okay, I don't really want to do local news, but I am happy that I went. And I would suggest for anybody, if you think that, like, you want to do news, for me, I would have regretted if I didn't try it, because all of my teachers, everyone said, like, this is the right way to do it. So I was able to go out there. I was there for 2 years. And it was fine. I think you learn a lot of stuff there, just about, like, how to handle breaking news, how to be like a one-woman band, because even though you're a reporter, you still have to do bookings, you have to schedule your interview, you have to find your own interview topic, you got to reach out to your guests, you have to film your interview. So, like, I'm there with my mic and my camera and my tripod and everything. I have to film it. I have to edit everything together. Then I have to go get changed to be the anchor to read it. Like, it was a lot of stuff that you have to do. And then after the show and post-production, I got to write the article. I got to post it on social media. But now I know how to do everything because I was doing it there. So I definitely would recommend for people, if you think, like, okay, this might be what I want to do, go ahead, do it. It might be for you. It might not be. I just knew it wasn't for me. And so towards the end of my contract, I was just applying to different sports places where I knew I wanted to go. And I had interned at NBC Sports twice. So then they saw I applied to work the Olympics, and I would say that helped because I had that experience. And then in interviews, I can say, well, yeah, right now I'm able to do these 10 different things a day, like these different jobs. Like, oh, okay, so you definitely could work the Olympics because you know how to do stuff at crazy hours, multiple different things a day. So you're used to this sort of fast-paced environment. And then it ended up helping me. So I don't regret it, but I would tell people to weigh their options, because I was the one of 2 Black girls, one of 3 Black people at one point.
I feel like one of my favorite things, man, about having this podcast is, like, you discover that we all live the same life, man. Like, it's really crazy when it comes to the journalism stuff, because me and Alexis interviewed Juju Adams that does social for GQ, and we had this exact same discussion about, like, how, like, her professors at USC would tell her the same thing, like, go the traditional route, is where you work your way up. And it's like, I had that same conversation with my professors at Quinnipiac, and one of the things that we talked about was how the rise of social media how the growth of social media has kind of expedited the just the speed in which you can kind of work your way up in this industry and the opportunities that you can get, right? So like now you're what, 26 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're 26 now, working at overtime, and it's like such a huge platform. You know what I'm saying? So just talk about, I guess, your I guess in hindsight, right, looking at all the experiences that you've been able to have, and then with the position that you're able to have now, how you feel like, I guess, social media has, I guess, expedited that process or allows you to kind of excel in some of the roles that you have now, because you also do wear a lot of different hats where it comes to podcasting and content creation on social media, right? You can do a bunch of different things that aren't, getting, filming the package and like you mentioned, editing it and all that kind of stuff that, we learn in school. So just talk about that whole journey and that process that has kind of allowed you to get to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, I would say, social media, it's really changed the world. Because at first it was supposed to be this fun thing, like, oh, I have a Facebook, oh, add me, oh, I have MySpace, follow me. Like, it was supposed to be like a fun thing at first. But then now social media is where the money is and where the jobs are. Realistically, every company, you have to have some sort of social media department, no matter what it is, whether it's tech or healthcare or a grocery store. Like, everybody has social media to some extent. So for me, when I was a TV news reporter, I realized, okay, I want to make this shift to digital media. So I was on a 2-year contract, but at the beginning of the second year, COVID hit. Once COVID hit, we're like, okay, well, don't come into the office if you think you're sick or stay away, whatever. So I left Wisconsin altogether and I went back to Chicago to work from home, because if I'm not in the office, I don't want to be in Wisconsin. So I was working from home and I changed my title. I talked to my boss and I became a digital content director. And so that was what helped me really make my switch, because then I switched from doing the newscast to doing social media. So I would handle our website. I would publish like maybe 15 articles a day on the website, but then I started 2 digital segments. And so one of them was like a weekly roundup of news. It was in case you missed it. And I would do a weekly roundup of all of the news in that area. Then there was another segment I did where it was talking about social media. So I would find a topic, post about it on our social media, and then grab clips of what people said and then make a video about it, about what they think on whatever controversial topic it was. But I think that was my first like initial way of doing content creation, because journalism and content creation, they're not really the same thing. And so you can be a reporter, but to make content is different than to make a package or to like make this script ready for this newscast. It's different, even though you have the same skills, but you handle it different ways. So that was what helped me transition into doing social media when I was a digital content director. And from there, it just kind of opened my eyes to show like the importance of growing a page, because I would like our page then, we had maybe 2,000 or 3,000 followers, the page I used to work for. But I'm happy that I worked at a smaller page, because with that, you're more hands-on and you can make mistakes. So if there was like a typo in this caption, okay, 6 people saw it, versus now at my job, if there's a typo, like 60,000 people could have seen it. It's like, dang, guys, like, sorry about that. So it just taught me a lot of skills working on like that micro level of social media. And then now working fully in social media, it's crazy because new things happen every day. Like we woke up one day and they're like, oh, here's Threads. Everybody join Threads. And then we woke up the next day and it was like, oh, just kidding. No one likes Threads. Like things are always changing. Now Twitter is X. Like there's always something new to talk about. But I love social media. It's fun. And I recommend it.
So I guess too, kind of going back to the Olympics a little bit, like, the Tokyo Olympics was kind of weird because it was supposed to be 2020, but then it ended up coming the next year, things like that. And then you were saying that since you had prior experience with NBC, it kind of helps you vouch for yourself when it came time to work for the Olympics. So did you go directly through NBC to get an Olympics job, or was it more so another media outlet that covers the Olympics as well and you went through them?
Every single job I've ever gotten was through LinkedIn. Literally. Every single job. Like, I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my favorite social media app. It's the best thing ever. So when I was trying to figure out my next job, I went on LinkedIn and I was just searching different opportunities. And then NBC Sports, whenever they have the Olympics, they'll list out a bunch of different positions. So I applied on LinkedIn, and then it'll take you like their career site. So I applied on there. I applied on their website. I didn't hear back literally for like 6 or 7 months because the Olympics had got postponed. So I didn't hear back for a long time. I forgot I applied because, like I said, I apply everywhere. So it wasn't like at the top of my mind. And then they reached out like, hey, I know you applied for this thing forever ago. Are you still interested? Can we set up a phone call? I'm like, okay, sure. I had a quick phone call, and then the next day they're like, all right, here's the offer. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. So it wasn't really that long of an interview process. But when I worked there were some of my old coworkers that I had worked with before. So I'm sure that if they needed a reference, like you can look on my resume and see, okay, from this time she was at the NBC Sports headquarters, and then she went to NBC Sports Washington. They could just reach out to someone there that I worked with, and then they could just vouch for me. So it wasn't even that long of a process for real. But that helped. And a lot of people say like your senior year of college, you should intern where you want to work, because then you can it'll help you transition into it. So I would say for me, what helped with NBC Sports is that since I had that experience on there, even though I was in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, it was like, okay, well, recently she was with our company. We have people that can vouch for her. She knows our systems. It's an easy adjustment. If I know the 5 websites that you use for all this stuff, you don't have to train me on my first day because I've done it before. So it's just like a quick refresher, and that's much easier than having to start entirely over and teach somebody new stuff.
That's dope. So kind of staying on that Olympics topic, right? Like, talk about just the opportunity to cover the Olympics. What are some of the things that you were able to do, and just, I guess, what that opportunity was like looking back on it in hindsight, because I mean, that's super cool, man. They would say that y'all covered the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? That's something that people dream about doing. So just talk about the opportunity, what it meant to you, and then some of the stuff that you were able to do throughout that experience.
Yeah, I never expected to cover the Olympics. Like that was not something I would have even put on my vision board. I would have never wrote out like, oh, I'm gonna do an Olympics one day. Like, it wasn't a goal. It was a dream, but it wasn't a goal that I would have thought was realistic. But yeah, the Olympics, it was crazy. So I did not go to Tokyo because I wasn't trying to get sick. This was during COVID. I wasn't trying to get sick and then come get my family sick. So I did it from my house. I worked from home on the Olympics, and I was a digital editorial producer. It was insane because Chicago and Tokyo, I don't remember the specific time difference, but it might have been like 9 hours. Like, it was something insane. So I would start work.
More than that. It's more than that. I just went to Japan, and it's 13 hours ahead of East Coast time. So that means it's 14 hours ahead of Chicago time.
Yeah, it was wild. So like I would start work at like 9 or 10 p.m. and then work the whole night shift until like 7 or 8 in the morning. But it was weird because I'm working, like, it's dark outside, but the clips I'm working on, it's just bright early, like midday for them tomorrow. So it was insane. But the one thing I would say that I appreciated the most about the Olympics is that the Olympics is every sport, like every single sport you could ever think of and have never heard of. So one day I'm covering handball and judo, jujitsu, surfing, synchronized swimming, 3-on-3 basketball. It was so much stuff that I had never heard of, I didn't know existed. But now at a job, if they're like, hey, like, we really need you to go do this synchronized swimming competition, I can do it because I've done it before. So that's the thing, that it definitely made me versatile because I was covering the wildest sports ever. And then it was fun because they gave us a little bit of background on each sport. So then it's like you're looking for storylines. So then I'm just at home like a nerd, like, yeah, dad, because in the jujitsu world, like, this guy wins, this will be the 3rd time and blah, 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 like just knowing the most random facts about stuff. And he's like, oh, okay, like it's 2 a.m. I'm trying to sleep, but I'm just loud watching. I'm watching the matches on my TV, on my phone app, on my computer, because I would be covering different sports at the same time. So it was just so much, but it was really fun. My colleagues were great because we would be messaging each other like, hey, is anybody sleepy yet? And I'm like, yeah, I'm dying. Like we're all just up super late hour. But it was really, really, really fun. And it didn't feel like work. And that to me is the best part, to where when you're doing stuff, you're learning something new, you're finding new loves, and you're gaining new skills. It doesn't feel like work. It just felt like an experience. So like if they're like, hey, do you want to do the Olympics? It's free. You won't be getting paid. I still probably would have done it just to be able to gain that sort of experience. It was really fun.
So I guess another question with being a social media manager at Overtime and kind of, okay, I shouldn't assume. When you were initially hired, was it to be talent and social media manager, or was it more so social media manager first, and then you vouched and pitched different on-air opportunities?
Well, the one thing about Overtime is that it's a very flexible company. So they like to allow people the chance to show what it is you're interested in, and then give you the opportunity to do it if you want. So when I started working there, I was a social media manager, but I think, I don't know if he's 29 or 30, but he always said like, yeah, but okay, so your assignments are boom, boom, boom. Let me know if there's anything else you want to do. Like, I'm always down, just pitch it, work on it, let me know. So he was super open, and made me feel super safe. So I just, probably within my first week, I started doing sports betting content, because I knew that was like the new wave. It was a newer thing that a lot of people were starting to hop on. So I started off I was managing pages, but I also did some sports betting content. And then I did some content for the main Overtime page. And then I started to do interviews and podcasts. And then I started to do some stuff on the women's page, but not a lot. And then the position just kind of grew and grew, because I was a news reporter. So I know how to do this. So then it just grew and grew and grew. And so now on a daily basis, I manage our Instagram, our TikTok, our Facebook. But then if there's breaking news, like I'm going to hop in and get this script and start writing to create content. And then I'll go on a trip somewhere and interview someone and make more content. Or I'll go to New York and go in the studio and film as well. So originally it was just like, my title was social media manager, with the chance of, hey, if there's more that you want to do, let us know. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, there's more that I want to do. Like, of course. So then over time, it just grew and grew and grew.
So you just made a post on Instagram about how, Overtime Women's just became like the most followed social media platform on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm curious to know, like, what went into growing that platform, right? Like, how do you think, what kind of strategies do you think worked well for you? Because I feel like that's kind of the name of the game in today's day and age. Like, how do you grow a large audience? How do you increase the following, engagement, things of that sort? So what sort of things do you think went into that? And can you just share some of the, I guess, tips and tricks that you think can help other people who are also trying to grow a presence on social media?
I don't think, what tips can I give without giving my secret recipe so that y'all don't take my job? I'm just kidding. I would say one thing that has helped me is just being authentic. So, like, I used to run our main Overtime page, and I helped that page get, in my first year, over 1.5 million followers. That to me was crazy, because the page I used to work only had 2,000 followers. So I was like, whoa. In my first year, I helped us get a lot of followers. And then once I switched over to the women's page, that more aligned with me, because I'm a woman. Like, I'm interested in seeing these stories. These are stories that I'm talking about. So I think what helps me run the page is just being authentic and thinking, okay, what are we talking about? What do people care about? Like, if right now hot topic is the WNBA MVP, is it Breanna Stewart or Asia Wilson? I'm talking to my friends about it. I should post about that, because people are probably talking to their friends about it. Like, giving people relatable content to where it's like, they'll see it and be like, oh, I was just telling my friend this the other day. Let me share it. Like, you want to make content to where people want to share it, they want to comment on it, they want to interact with it. I like to highlight athletes so that way people will see, like, oh, look at this athlete from the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. Dang, she's killing it. Like, sharing news stories that people have never heard of, that'll make someone want to follow, because it's like, oh, I would have never expected that. I would have never heard of that. What else does this page have? And you click and you scroll, and you see more content. You see relatable content. You see funny content. You see new athletes that you've never heard of. So I just try to post stuff that I know people care about and diversify the content as well, because like I cover women's basketball and women's soccer and volleyball, like, and this and that, trying to just tap into different audiences, but then staying authentic to who I am and knowing at the end of the day, like, I'm not a huge women's tennis fan. Like, I don't know that much about tennis. I've played it, but I don't know a lot. So when I'm going to cover it, I'm going to reach out and see, what are people talking about? How can I accurately discuss this? But I'm not going to make 30 tennis posts because I don't know that much. So I try to stay authentic to who I am, sticking along to the sports that I know, but then I'll like dibble and dabble into newer things to see if my audience likes that, paying attention to what the audience wants to see.
So based on the just kind of talking about the overtime content, right after LSU won, you got the chance to sit down with Angel Reese. But like when you all sat down, she was like the main attraction. Everyone was talking about her, writing articles, social media posts, etc. So when you got the chance to sit down with her, what were some things that you did to kind of curate some different type of questions, just so it won't be like, okay, here we are again talking about how you guys won, talking about team chemistry, talking about, you know, people putting you against Caitlin Clark. Like, what were some things that you did to make sure that there was a reason why we're watching Maya's interview, even though we already know everything about, well, we think we know everything about Angel Reese. We already think we know. Why are we going to sit down and listen to, you know, Maya and Angel's conversation? So what was that like, just kind of sitting with yourself and curating those questions and kind of your objective when you went into talking to her?
That's the thing I think that helps me being a Black woman, is that I'm in these spaces, you know, so I can relate to Angel because she's a Black woman. So as soon as I met her, I'm like, hey, it's nice to meet you, yada, yada. We sit down. I told her, I said, this is going to be a fun interview. It's not going to be the normal stuff that you had. I'm not going to repeat and ask you like regular questions. This is going to be fun stuff, I promise. And she was like, uh-oh, like, okay. She got nervous. And then the first question I asked her, I was like, what's the wildest DM you've ever gotten? And that was just the icebreaker, because I wanted her to know, like, we're here, you can be open, this is a safe space, we're here to have fun. I'm not going to talk heavy analytics, I'm not going to talk about predictions for next season. Like, I want to talk about just genuine stuff about Angel. Like, sure, you are an LSU player, of course we're going to touch on LSU things, of course we're going to mention like, oh, she also just won a natty, but at the same time, I want to learn about you. How did you spend your first NIL check? Like, what's your pregame ritual? What's this? What's that about you as a person? And so I think that's one thing that helps me, is that my content is fun and I try to just relate to them as a friend. Like, I want to go, I'll sit down with Flage. I'm going to laugh with you for a couple minutes first. And then, all right, let's get into this other, you know, like question that I kind of have to ask you. But it's more so just thinking from a fan perspective. I'm a fan of you. What would I want to ask Angel as a fan? You know, like, what would, if my group chat was like, hey, if we could talk to Angel for one question, what would the group chat want to know? And then that's the question I'm going to ask.
So one thing that you just said that I think was very interesting that I want to kind of ask a follow-up on is, right, like, and we all kind of have that journalism, like news background, right? And I feel like we all in journalism 101 learned about, like, you know, news integrity and journalism integrity. And right, like, sometimes when you're in an interview, you have questions that you have to ask, right? Whether it might be a tough question or things like that, right? But I think those kind of questions and that journalism style, interview style, is very different from the content that people will want to see on social media when it comes to maybe interview questions or a thing that might do well for a platform such as Overtime, right? So for you, having that news experience, having that news background of, conducting interviews in a news setting versus trying to figure out content that will be better curated for social media or for something like Overtime, how do you balance those things when you're conducting an interview with the Angel Reese or with the Brianna Stewart or something like that? Or do you see a difference at all?
You're saying, how do I?
Like, for example, I think when it comes to even like interviews like this and podcasts, right? Like there might be a question that I'll ask somebody that might be, I don't know, like a tougher question or just something that maybe they don't want to talk about, but like as a journalist, you might have to ask them, right? You always see, and for example, in the NBA Finals, right? People get up on the podium and they ask these coaches or these players these questions. And as an audience member, we're like, damn, like, why would he ask that? You know what I'm saying? Why would he ask the coach, right? Like, how he felt about his team shooting 1 for 50 from the 3-point line. But as a reporter, you have to ask because people want to know that, you know what I'm saying? Even though they might give you a thank response, right? But that's kind of the responsibility of a journalist versus when you're creating content for social media, sometimes you're kind of just looking for a clip that might be funny or relatable or something like that. I think for me at least, I feel like there's a difference in those type of in the approach to the interview or the approach to the question. So do you feel like you kind of have to weigh those different type of things when you're creating content for Overtime? Or just, I guess, what's your experience in kind of differentiating the two styles from like a more traditional journalism interview versus social media content?
Yeah, I would say I always try to make the people I interview as comfortable as possible. And I want them to know, like, I'm not your op. I'm not against you. Like, I'm not gonna sneak in a random question to throw you off or to get a scoop. That's not the sort of journalist that I am. And I more so like to present you a new version of someone and show you a side of Angel Reese or Flage or Paige Beckers that you've never seen before. I don't want to throw them off and make them like uncomfortable. Then now you shut down. Now you don't want to answer my questions anymore.
Right.
So I think for me, like as a traditional journalist, at first you do go in thinking like, okay, here is the soundbite that I'm aiming for, that I'm trying to get, so that once it's time for the newscast, I can have this perfect clip. But in social media, it's not as rough and rigid and strict. So in social media, it's more so like, well, the content that I make, at least, I want the viewers to see it and like, oh, that was nice, and not like, why did she ask her that? Like, this is awkward. Like, that's weird. I never want things to be played that way. So I just always try to make the person as comfortable as possible. I'll say like, hey, if there's any question that I ask that you don't like, you can say skip it and we'll skip it. It won't be weird at all, because I wouldn't want to be in that position. Then you ask me a question, then I'm like, pass, or like I have to give an uncomfortable answer. So I just tell them like, hey, if there's anything that I ask that you don't want to talk about, let me know. And it's happened before where I might ask like, oh, your team just got this new player. What do you think of them? Have you met them? What's your approach on blah, blah, blah? And they'll be like, I'm going to pass on that. It's like, okay, that's fine. Next. And then I'll just pick another question that's fun to like lighten the mood so that it doesn't drop. And so, yeah, I just want them to know I'm your friend. And so I think the best example is Paige Becker, right? Paige was at one point the face of women's college basketball. She was everywhere. I was a fan of Paige. I love Paige. I followed her, and she came to the takeover at my job, and she walked in the room. I was talking to somebody, and she looked, and she was like, hey, is your voice the voice of the videos y'all post? And I was like, yeah, that's me. She's like, oh, I love your videos. I see them all the time, blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited, because I'm like, okay, so Paige Becker knows my voice. Like that was huge to me. So in the interview, I'm making sure that I'm asking her stuff where it's like good questions, where she's like, oh, I never thought about that, like fun stuff. And then at the end, her agent came in and was like, all right, guys, it's time to wrap. And she was like, can we do one more question? And I'm like, of course we can. Like that's the impression you want to leave, where Paige wants to keep going. So I asked her, who's the most underrated player you've ever played? She was like, oh, I don't know, I gotta think about it. Actually, hold on. And she picked up her phone and she scrolled for like 3 minutes. She was like, I gotta find somebody. She was like, I'm looking through to see like roster names. I gotta get this answer, because she didn't want to end the interview. She wanted to keep talking to me. And I just left on cloud 9, because that's my goal, is for, oh, I had so much fun. I want to follow her after this interview. She asked me a question no one has ever asked. That's the goal. Not like, yeah, that girl was tripping. And she asked me how I felt about Asia dropping 50. Like, how do you think I felt? I never want to be in that kind of situation.
I'm glad that was an amazing answer, by the way. So I'm glad that my question didn't I'm glad that you knew what I was trying to get at. So that was an amazing answer too. I don't know. I want to ask a quick question about how it come about overtime, right? Because I feel like as a hooper, right, this is our beef with overtime, right? So I want to get your perspective as somebody who works for the platform, right?
Okay.
So one of the things that people always say about overtime, right, is that, overtime has a large, at least from the outside looking in, so we can have this dialogue, right? From our perspective, we feel like overtime is like very highlight based, right? Like people, they're getting the dunk or somebody doing some crazy stuff in the game and people are going viral. And sometimes people, you watch the game, especially like AAU now, right? You might watch an AAU game and you might see some dudes doing some wild stuff on the court. You're like, bro, you trying to go viral, bro. Like they might see overtime in the stands and start going crazy. It's like, bro, that's not even real basketball. And I feel like overtime has kind of created this culture to where people are more focused on like going viral for overtime rather than playing the game of basketball in the purest form that might help you get recruited or, help you become a professional athlete one day, right? So for you, somebody who works for the platform, how do you guys decide like what things you're going to post, like what things you want to, I guess go on your platform that goes viral and things perform? Because now it's like everybody's trying to go viral for overtime, and we're like, bro, like everybody's still caught up in going viral that they're not playing the game. You know what I'm saying? So what's your 2 cents on that?
Eesh. That's tough. That's really tough. I think the one thing though is that the days that we live in now is very social media heavy. Like I said that before, like right now we're a digital first, social content first sort of society. So I'm not gonna put it on overtime. I think that's how it is for most companies in general. Like even now, I feel like if a music artist releases a song, they're gonna make sure that they drop something in that song or in that video so that it goes on the blog, so that Complex posts it, so that the Shade Room posted it. Like people are gonna go live and act crazy so that blogs repost it. That's just the world that we live in now. I would hope that people don't feel as though these industries are diluted, but a lot of things now, like you want to go viral on TikTok. You're gonna make a song, you're gonna make a Coily Ray song that's for TikTok, not for radio, because that's what you want. You want a TikTok audience. So it is tough. Trying to think of how to answer. I don't know. It's hard. Like I think as a publisher, one thing is just trying to figure out authenticity of posts. So if there's a video of someone and then like you're coming down the lane, you broke their ankles, and it's like, oh, that was a crazy play. Like, okay, I'm gonna post that because I saw that and like that was wild. But if I'm watching and I see like, oh, you clearly faked it and then you like tripped yourself so that you could fall, and then the whole crowd jumped up, oh, and it's like, okay, this was staged. You're just making this so that I could repost it. It wasn't authentic. So it's like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. So I think I would hope that the game isn't diluted, but it's like that with literally every industry now. Great example is like tunnel fits. NBA players, they're wearing anything. NFL players, you're wearing anything because you want people to see your tunnel fits and then go viral. They want people. Jimmy Butler, come on, like you weren't gonna wear your hair like that. You just did that for media day so that you could go viral, so that you could have this moment. And people just I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard question.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, so I don't don't know. I think my perspective is a little bit different because I feel like, especially with the Overtime Women's platform, I definitely think it's more storytelling based. Of course, there still is more of the like, hey, this girl went off for 40, let's post her, or hey, there's these cool twins, they're both a bucket, like let's post them. So I do think that I feel like it's a mix of like showing off immaculate skill, but then also like, hey, these women have real stories. So I don't know. I kind of disagree a little bit, and I guess it's a little bit different for me what I look at in certain things, just because I think for me I'm more so come from that storytelling, featurey writing background. So for me, I think I more so connect with storytelling and can see good storytelling. So I kind of disagree a little bit with it being like, let's just go viral. I think that a lot of people, well, not so much the younger, like middle school, ninth, 10th grade generation, I think more so like the older, like college players, I think they kind of understand the difference between playing real basketball, going viral, and then also doing things to get you recruited to that next level. Because I think a lot of people that are banking on basketball taking them to that next level, they are able to prioritize, having a good overall game, offensively, defensively, to have a good game so that they can, play a long career versus just focusing on those viral moments. I think focusing on those viral moments is more so something that the middle school players and like the ninth and 10th graders kind of focus on. So I do think it's kind of something for everything and like a place for everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you brought up a good point, especially about just generations of basketball. And so at Overtime, the generation, our audience is younger. It's not going to be the same as like ESPN, because ESPN was founded 30, 40, 50 years ago, and like you were a television network, and then now you're transitioning to social bites. So it's like Overtime versus ESPN versus House of Highlights versus Bleacher Report versus Ball is Life. Like they all have different audiences. And so I appreciate what you said about just diversifying the content. And that's one thing that I've been saying for a while is once we became the most followed, it's like, okay, now if I have all these eyes on this page, what am I doing with it? I don't want to just have a page where it's like, oh, well, we're posting stuff and we're going viral for nothing. I want us to post stuff and go viral because I just showed you this amazing play from this sixth grader, who's in the middle of nowhere, who doesn't get a lot of coverage. Or we're going viral on this thing where we're talking about the WNBA expanding the league. Are they going to Oakland? Are they going to San Francisco? Like having actual conversation. So that to me is the push of trying to post the funny stuff that you want to see, post the good highlights that you want to see, but then also, like you said, the storytelling element, talking about what people want to talk about, showing them things, showing them new players and new athletes that they've never heard of. And it's like trying to have just a great balance of everything. And then it's like diversifying it even more to go from high school to college to pro. Like those are all different age levels, all different sorts of players. So, and then it's like also posting for basketball and volleyball and soccer and tennis, like always trying to just figure out what's the goal here, and being that it's a women's sports page that I work on now, it's like trying to push women's sports as a whole, in addition to getting those important clips or those funny clips. Yeah.
Kind of another question for you. I feel like with this young generation, everyone is trying to make it. Everyone's trying to get a job. Everybody's trying to get an internship. Everybody's trying to connect, network. Oh, let's connect. I feel like that's a really big cloud over young people right now. And I think a lot of it isn't super genuine, if that makes sense. It's kind of just like, oh, for instance, like someone doesn't know you at all, they know nothing about you, they send you a DM like, hey, I want to work at Overtime, can you please help me? Like a lot of that is going on. So what advice would you give to college students and just entry level people of making those genuine connections? Because I think a lot of it is it's kind of annoying in a way where it's like, it's almost like for instance, like if you're trying to join a sorority, like you're friends with the girls with the sorority or whatever, but you're only friends with them because you eventually want to join, you want to make a line or whatever. It's not because you genuinely like these girls. Well, for some people it's genuine, but for others it's just like, what can I do to make a line? It's kind of the same thing with in the professional world. It's like, okay, I don't really want to know Maya Reese. I don't really want to get to know her. I don't want to know. I just want to work in overtime. And I'm sure you've had, especially with as big of a platform overtime is, I'm sure you've had many, young professionals come up to you saying, hey, how'd you get an overtime? Help me, please, please, please. So how do you think like this generation can be a little bit more genuine when it comes to making those professional connections?
I think the key words you said is being genuine, right? So a lot of times I'll get messages and I can tell as I read it, like, oh, you're literally just reaching out because you want a job. Like it won't be like, hey Maya, I love your content, been following you for a minute. Would love if we could just chat really quick about, like whatever. It's rarely stuff like that. It'll be like, hey, I saw that you work at this job. They have an opening for blah, blah, blah. Can you send my stuff to the hiring manager? And it's like, sure, I can. But at the same time, that would be a bad look on me if this is someone that I don't know. I've never met you. I can refer you, but I don't know what I'm referring. I don't know your work ethic. I don't know your dedication. I don't know your knowledge. I don't know your background. I know nothing about you. How can I submit you and say that you're qualified for a job if I have no idea? That wouldn't be fair for you, me, or the company, any company. So I think you just have to actually be genuine. And there are a lot of people that I followed where it's like, I'll see the stuff they're doing, I'll follow them and I'll follow their career for a minute. And then it's like, you might get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, so-and-so just left Sports Illustrated. That looks like a cool job. Let me see if that job is on LinkedIn. Oh, it's not on, because I love LinkedIn. It's not on LinkedIn. Okay, let me reach out and see, hey, do you know how I can get in contact with someone to apply for this job? Like being genuine because I relate to the content that they make, that I'm a fan of their work. I think now, like you said, with sororities, it's just like that in social media in general. Like in Chicago, I might go out and somebody be like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. Then 20 minutes later, like, yeah, cheers, overtime, Maya. And I'm like, wait, why did you just say that?
Yeah.
Where did that just come from? Like, that's so random. It's like, oh, or a great example is like, every now and then I'll be out, a guy will be like, oh, hey, it's nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, we should follow each other on Instagram. Okay, what's your thing? I type it in and you're already following me. It's like, oh, well, this is awkward because you knew who I was, hence why you were making conversation. And then now it's not like, hey, let's connect and follow each other. As you were following me, you just want to follow back. So it's just stuff like that. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way and it'll make me uncomfortable. But I've been used to that like kind of my whole life, I would say, just because in high school, like my family is just really close with a certain NBA star here in Chicago. So once he like became an official part of my family, people would always hit me up in high school like, can we go to Bulls games? Can we go to Bulls games? But it's like, you haven't talked to me in 3 years. Now all of a sudden you want to hang out and you want it to be a Bulls game. You're not hitting me up to just let's go to coffee. Like I can see through most of the stuff. So I've been kind of trained to be able to peep like, oh, okay, this is what this person wants. Let me just kind of move differently, because you never know people's intentions, especially now on social media, you don't know people's intentions. So I think as a college student, if you're trying to reach out, it's gonna be kind of hard because on social media, I don't know you, you don't know me. So it's like, I'm not gonna understand your intentions. So I might look at it like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. It's tough. But I would say if you are a college student, don't just reach out to someone because you see where they work or because they did a cool interview that you liked. You should actually reach out for a genuine reason or follow them for a genuine reason. Because most people can tell that you're hitting them up, not because I actually liked your interview with Angel Reese. It's just, oh, I want to interview Angel too. So then you follow and they be like, hey, do you have Angel's agent's number? Hi, I don't know you. How are you? My day's going well. How's yours? How's your family? Like people, they're just very straight to the point. That can be awkward if I don't know you, because you wouldn't do that in real life face to face. So why would you do it like that online? I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, no, it does. I just think that's just something, especially like with me not being too far removed from undergrad, just I don't know, it's just something that was on my mind. Just people just always use the word let's connect, let's connect, let's connect. And it's like, well, why do we need to connect?
But it's also they use that word connect a lot. But what does connect mean to you? That's my thing. What does connect mean to you? Does connect mean we follow each other on social media? Does connect mean, hey, give me your phone number and we'll text every now and then? Like a lot of people will say, let's connect. Okay, we follow each other. Then I never hear from you until you saw a job opening. I never hear from you until, hey, the Olympics are in 2024, right? Like, yeah, it is. Okay, well, can you help me with blah, blah, blah? We've never had a conversation since I was in a car accident. You didn't say, I hope that you're okay. I had COVID. You didn't say, get well soon. You know, like my grandparent could have died. You didn't say prayers for your family. You didn't say a single word until you wanted a job. Then I can tell it's not authentic. But there's a bunch of people that, like a bunch of people years younger than me who will follow me. I'll see like, oh, okay, they work in media. Oh, they're at HBCU. Okay, let me follow you. Like, go, okay, girl. And then I'll comment on their stuff. They'll comment on mine. We'll support each other and then build kind of like a social media friendship. So then once it's time, when you're about to graduate, if you're like, hey, Maya, do you know someone at this company? Oh, yeah, I do. I would love to help you. Like, I always want to help people, but you have to make me want to help you. You can't be a random stranger and just be like, hey, girl. I don't know you.
They love a hey girl.
Hey, boo. Like, oh, now I'm your boo.
Man, people are strange in general, man. I feel like it's so funny because I feel like though we're talking about different industries and how people be hitting you up talking about, oh yeah, like trying to get a job. People be doing that shit to me all the time with this basketball shit. They be like, hey Drew, yo, put me on with your agent, bro. Or I'd be in Japan. Hey, yo, bro, can you tell your coach about me, bro? Like, tell your gym to sign me. I'm like, boy, all you got is men's league highlights. How am I gonna get you a job on my team in Japan? Like, can we be for real? Like, what do you know, bro? Like, this not how this works, man. So, just disclaimer before I get to my next question, man. Y'all gotta be for real sometimes, man. Like, don't be trying to hit people up and I don't know you. I don't, you know what I'm saying? We gotta just have some common sense, man. But I want to kind of piggyback a little bit off the last question I asked you. Also, I want to add a disclaimer. We're not talking about the wonderful work that Maya has done on the Overtime Women's page. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to think that I was talking about what the whole viral thing, you know, we're undermining your work because, you know, our platform here at What's in Your Bag, you know, we give flowers here and celebrate your work, you know. So that was a disclaimer there. But I feel like when it comes to this is something that I know that our audience would definitely want to hear about this concept, because I feel like one of the things that Overtime has done and just the platform, and Overtime is a huge platform, you know what I'm saying? It's growing a lot and it's giving a lot of people platforms. And not even just Overtime, just like like we mentioned before, the Ball is Life, the House of Highlights, right? Like you have these kids that are in high school now that are legit celebrities because of a lot of these social media pages, man. They got millions and millions of followers. And it's like the Mikey Williams of the world or the Julian Newmans of the world, man. Like, it was crazy because these kids have these crazy followings because they're going viral or dunking or making people fall. And I wonder, like, the trade-off, because again, like for me as a hooper, it's like, all right, you know, on the one hand, you do want to kind of like, because like, and again, we're not throwing shade on anybody, but we're somebody like a Julian Newman who went viral for all them highlights, but it's like nobody ever heard from Julian Newman on a level, or people like, damn, like his brother been really good at basketball, but he got all these followers and highlights and things like that. Like, so my mind is always like, what is the trade-off here? Like, what is the value of virality or having a bunch of followers? Because on the one hand, you can make a lot of money at a young age from going viral and having a lot of followers, but at the same time, I feel like the purity of the game can sometimes be taken away if that's what you're aiming for, to try to go viral and gain a following to increase your platform and stuff like that. So for you, as somebody who is kind of on the other side of it, like, what do you think the lasting effects of social media are on the game? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people will question like, oh, what are you doing this for? Are you doing this because you want to be great and you want to become a professional and you want to play at the highest level? Or are you doing this because you want to go viral and have overtime Maya post you on the page? You know what I'm saying? Like, so what do you think as far as that whole dynamic and just the effects of social media on the sport?
Yeah, I think a great example of what you said is Mikey Williams, right? They asked him, like, so are you trying to go to college and do blah, blah, blah? And he's like, yeah, sure. And they're like, okay, is your goal the league? And he was like, nah. They're like, wait, but why not? And he was like, I mean, the money I make with through NILs and through like social media partnership deals, like, why would I go to the league? I can just do that forever. And that's kind of how a lot of people view it. So like for Angel Reese, they said, oh yeah, I'll make it to the W eventually, but for right now, like these NIL deals are popping. And that's great for them. It's an amazing thing to see now where it's like you can have these NIL deals, you can create a whole social media job and personality from that and gain a following, go viral, get money. It is a real job. So it is very impressive. I think for me, the only thing that I worry about sometimes is the mindset that it makes. So for example, like my nephew, his name is PJ Rose. PJ has been posted on like Ball is Life and Complex Sports and a bunch of big media companies. They'll go to his game, they'll post, they'll go, oh, PJ Rose looks just like Derrick Rose. He's killing it, yada, yada, yada. But at the time, I think he was 8. Then they did it again when he's 9. Now he's 10. So he's super young. He's 10 years old. And so for him, that was a major thing. He's so excited. Oh, I'm on Ball is Life. Like that's big for him. But at the same time, for me, I'm thinking like, okay, but what happens if somebody goes and then you have a bad game, you know, or even right now, I can go in the comment section and read, it'll be people like, yeah, go off. But then there's always comments where it's like, he probably not even that good. Or, oh, he's too young to tell. Like his daddy, like they always have something negative to say. So what I worry about with these people where it's like, you reach such a high level of fame at a young age based off of your talent. I just worry about the mindset that it makes about when you have a bad game, or if you just a lot of things that you do as a kid, you should be able to do as a kid. But then social media is like a whole different world of people who everybody has something to say, whether it's positive or negative. And so being someone who works in social media, like I always want to uplift the players and help them build their brand. But like you said, it is tough because it's like, I don't know what your goal is. Is your goal to go to the W, or is your goal to be a social media personality? Like it's two different things. So I just always try to reach out, post them in positive ways, but it can be tricky sometimes, every now and then.
And I think that is the $1 million question, because again, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like talking about somebody like Mikey Williams, right? There's people who have never seen Mikey Williams play before. They're like, yo, is bro even good at basketball? Like, is he even nice, or is he just a social media sensation that dunks and whatever, got all these followers? And I think for me and a lot of the people who came before me, like if you're a purist of the game, people will say, all right, well, like, what is the goal? You know what I'm saying? Is the goal to be the best basketball player that you can be and reach the highest levels of playing, like whether that be the NBA or, you know, overseas or whatever, be the best basketball player? Or should the goal be to make as much money as you can and market yourself? And at the end of the day, even if Mikey Williams never touches the league, he made a couple million already before he even got to college or whatever the case may be. So it's like, what is the goal, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's tough. So like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's also like you could be a perfect marriage of the two. You can be a LeBron and start your own production company, and then now you got everything. You know, now you're doing movies, TV shows, podcasts, like doing a million different things, and you're legit on the court. But for the younger kids, it's like, I would love if everyone could be equal. And that's the thing, that it is harder sometimes because you might have somebody where I'll post your funny TikToks and you're killing it. But then once it's time to post your highlights, it's like, oh, she doesn't have any nice buckets from this game. Okay, well, let me wait till the next game. And it's like, oh, okay. But I still want to show love because I'm a fan of you. I like who you are as a person. So I always try to find a way to show like this really nice play that you had, this really nice highlight that you had. But it's just tough. like you said, it is tough to find out the end goal. But also, I think it should be fun. People shouldn't have to know their end goal now, you know? So if Mikey wants to get 5 million followers and then take a year off and then go G League and then go league, like, that's good for him. But it is just tough now to, like, everybody's multi-dimensional.
Right. So kind of pivoting a little bit to your personal, brand, right, and your personal journey. Well, I feel like we talked about this off air a little bit, just about how people will, or even like you mentioned, cheers to Overtime Maya in the bar, right? Like, that whole aspect. Like, when it comes to your personal brand and your personal journey, you have a plethora of skills, a plethora of places that have, that you've been along this journey, right? What is your long-term goal, right? Like Maya Reese, outside of, the whole overtime landscape, right? Where do you see your career going? What are some things that, you want to accomplish in the future? Given, what you've done so far, your interests, like, how do you see, Maya Reese, 5-10 years from now? Like, what would you be doing?
That's a tricky question, just because I'm not really sure. I think the media world is changing every single day. So it's hard to know in 10 years what jobs are going to look like what the responsibilities are. And for me, I've done stuff that I never thought I would do. Like, if you told me to write out my career, nowhere in there would I have said win an Emmy. I would have never said I'm going to win an Emmy. But then that happened I think I was nominated at 24, won at 25. So it's like, I would have never expected that. And then especially not at that young age. So for me, it's more so like, you tell God your plans and then he'll laugh at you. Like, it's hard to really know. I can't say, because I've already done stuff that I can only dream about. So in the future, I don't really know. I think I'm going to be storytelling for sure. I'm going to be trying to highlight people. I'm going to be trying to show different versions of people. I like to work with people who are up and coming, and be able to kind of help solidify them in their career path and help push them to new audiences. I don't know if it'll be in sports or if it'll be in entertainment. I might switch one day and now I'm live from a red carpet or something. I don't really know. But the one thing that I do know for sure is that it's going to be unexpected, because that's how my whole career has been. It's been unexpected, where it's like, oh, I had this cool opportunity. Okay. And then this just built onto this, then built onto that. Like, everything will just always happen in what feels like out of nowhere. But I think that's because I built such a strong foundation to where now the sky is the limit, to where anything can happen. And it'll, like, kind of surprise me, but kind of not. Hopefully a Forbes 30 under 30 is there in my future. I'm 26, so I have a couple of years. That's one thing I would put on my list of things. Like, I would love to be on Forbes 30 under 30 for the work that I'm doing. But anything else, I have no idea. I just hope that I'm able to use my work and my platform to help others. That's my biggest thing.
That's amazing. Well, we're definitely gonna save this clip, because when you do become a Forbes 30 under for 30, we're gonna post it and congratulate you. You know what I'm saying? And say that we spoke it into existence, and God did, and God made it happen.
You hear that? God.
Yes, Jesus name, amen. We claiming it. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I know we've been on here for a while, so we're gonna have some fun and get some quick hitters to get you out the door, man. But the last kind of more serious question I do want to ask you, and I'm always big on, like I said, giving flowers and letting people know, that what they're doing is being recognized and appreciated. And I feel like it's always refreshing to have these type of conversations, because the more people you come across and the more people you meet, man, you just realize how many people in this world are just doing amazing things, man. And for you to be the age that you are, 26, and to be an Emmy Award winner, and to be working at Overtime, and to be a Howard University alum, and be a Black woman that's accomplishing all these things, man, like, it's amazing to see, and for somebody who's also trying to get into this space, man, like, you're doing amazing work. You're killing it. I know there's a lot of people who are really inspired by the work that you're doing. So definitely keep it up. And I want you to know that for sure, that we're definitely honored to have had you on this platform. So what I want to ask you is, looking back on all the things that you've been able to accomplish, right? Like the Emmy Award, and Overtime Maya, and looking at the Olympics, man, being able to cover that, right? Like, if you could tell 12-year-old Maya Reese, one thing, like, what would it be? Looking hindsight 2020, given where you are now, like, how do you reflect on your journey and all the things that you've been able to accomplish?
Okay. If I could tell 12-year-old Maya Reese, if I could tell her some advice or just give her like a sneak peek?
Advice.
Advice. Okay, sorry. I picked my dog up because he wouldn't shut up.
Oh.
I think, all right, I don't want to go too deep on this one. I think the advice I would give her would be, okay, the advice I would give her would be to ignore the outside noise and focus on what it is that you want to do. And whether that's 12-year-old me, 16-year-old, 18-year-old, like probably 26-year-old me, like that's my biggest thing, is ignoring the outside noise and trying to stay authentic to who I am. I think in your younger years, you're trying to find even now, you're trying to find yourself and find out who you are, what it is that you like, what makes you different. And younger me, I used to have a really bad stutter, like really bad. Like, why did I end up on TV? Like, it used to be really bad. And I would be sitting with some of my friends, and there's always that one hater. This girl would be like, Maya, like, just spit it out. What are you trying to say? It's like, I'm trying to spit it out, but I can't because I have a stutter, girl. Like, you're irritating me. But she would always pick on me. But it's like, I was able to realize that that was my weakness and then flip it to where it's like, okay, let me try to focus and try to figure out how I can alleviate this problem, how I can get rid of it. And that's when I said, okay, let me go be on TV. So that way I can transform myself. Like, oh, we're live action. Okay. Stutter's immediately gone, and making myself comfortable. And so when I would hear outside comments, it would irritate me and then frustrate me and think like, oh man, like, yeah, she is right. Like, I do need to work on this. Like, it would be a lot. So I think just not to pay attention to other people would be my main thing for 12-year-old me. And even me now, even like in the social media world, we always see somebody announcing something new that they've done. And then you kind of get imposter syndrome and you look and you think, oh, dang, like this person did this, is that they're killing it. It's like, yeah, you're killing it too. You just don't realize it because you're looking at someone else's page. Go look at your own page. Go look at your own accomplishments. Notice the stuff that you're doing. I think a lot of us are like that in this generation where you're always looking at the next person, but I've been able to teach myself tunnel vision. And so that's what I would want younger me to learn, is like tunnel vision, focusing on yourself, not other people. Because at the end of the day, you are who you are. I have to make myself the best version and the next version of myself. So that's my main thing.
I love it. We got a couple cool killers for you. Lex, do you have any more questions though before we get into the fun segment of the interview? I don't want to cut your water off. You got anything?
Oh no, I don't have any more.
All right, cool. All right, so got a couple cool killers for you. I want you to answer the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear these questions. Okay. So the first one we got for you: favorite interview that you've done?
Paige Beckers.
Okay. Something people will be surprised to know about you.
Oh, that's hard. First thing that comes to mind, surprise, probably that I used to have a really bad stutter.
We already said that, so you gotta give us something else.
People would be surprised about. This is hard. I'm acting like I don't know myself. What would they be surprised about? I don't know. What's something people would be surprised about y'all?
I'll let Alexis go first.
I knew you were gonna do that.
I like how you flipped that, by the way. That's clutch. That was nice.
Hard, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm very, not so much. I don't think open book is the right term, but I feel like I'm very like transparent about my experiences and stuff. Oh my god. Hey, buddy. Relax.
My
Her
dog
dog
is.
might start barking next.
My dog's like, hey.
Right,
Like,
what's that?
going on?
You want the smoke?
Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm gonna mute myself and you can go, Andrew.
Wow, this is crazy how both of y'all deflecting right now. Some people be surprised to know about me. Well, I talked about this on last week's episode, but I feel like something that people would be surprised to know about me is that I actually I thought something people would be surprised to know about me. Because like I said, I'm into content creation, I'm into reels, I'm into that whole space. I love that. And like I said, my favorite influencer that I'm locked into right now is Monet McMichael. Like, I love her. I watch all her YouTube videos. I watch all her TikTok little get ready with me's, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, people probably be surprised, like, boy, what you watching a beauty influencer get ready with me for? But for me, it's more so about the content and the inspiration and her personality behind it. So and she's doing her thing in Paris Fashion Week right now too. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Monet. I'm gonna keep on, throwing that out there because one day I'm gonna meet Monet. I'm gonna go ahead and claim that too. I'm gonna let her know that. You feel me? She a number one supporter in me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Okay, I thought of mine, but mine is like really basic. Okay, so one thing people would be surprised to know is that I don't eat chicken wings.
Why?
Because the concept of eating something with a bone in it throws me off. So
like, do you not do like bone-in steaks and stuff either?
I've never had steak. Wow. I know. I've never had chicken wing. I don't know, like buffalo sauce. I've never had it. Blue ranch, never had it. None of that. The most I'll do though is like chicken tenders, chicken nuggets, maybe like the boneless little like bites that they have at like Hooters. I've done that before, or Buffalo Wild Wings, one of those. But
is it like a fear of the bone that like you might choke, or is it just like
not a fear? I just don't like it. So I would rather just like not have it. I've never had pork chops. I've never had
vegan or vegetarians. Oh no, you say you eat chicken, so you're not vegan or vegetarian. That's never had steak that is very surprising.
Yeah, I know.
So like when you never mind. So when you like go to like
steakhouse,
yeah, or like fancy restaurants, or like let's say like you're on a date or something, and he's trying to like impress you, and y'all are going on like I don't know, y'all go to STK or something. Do you order like chicken breast?
No, I'm getting salmon.
Oh, okay.
I always have to get some salmon or like some sort of fish. I'm more of a sides person, so then I'll get like lobster mac, like mashed potatoes, like do more of that than like I'm not gonna get a steak. You could take me to a steakhouse, but I'm not gonna get steak. I wouldn't try it.
Okay. Alexis, you've been getting all scotch-free. What some people be surprised to know about you? I ain't forget.
I don't know. Well, okay, because I always use this one, but I've never said it on here. I guess like when I was growing up, I really wanted to be like a child actor, and like my dad was like right behind me, like really like pushing me to do stuff. And so like he took me on a bunch of audition like cereal commercials. I tried out for Ant Farm. I tried out for Wizards of Waverly Place. So yeah, I guess like at a young age, like I really wanted to be a kid actor.
No, same. I tried out for Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
I remember that show. I
found out later that it wasn't actual, like it wasn't just really smart fifth graders. They were actors.
I never
so,
knew
like,
that.
had to like like they would like homeschool them and teach them a lesson on molecules on Monday. Then on Friday on the show, here's a question about molecules. And it's like, oh, well, that's why you knew it, because you learned it recently. And they were like kid actors.
Oh wow. Yeah, I thought it was just like I literally thought they went to elementary schools and like recruited fifth graders and then just threw them on the show.
Had casting calls.
My mind is blown. I thought this is one of them like childhood ruin moments. Like I'm questioning everything. Okay. All right. Next one is somebody in the media or content, who is somebody who you look up to or draw inspiration from?
I don't look up to, I would say, just in general. I don't really look up to people, but some work that I admire for sure. I love Taylor Rooks. I've always loved her ever since I first found out about her years ago, and the work that she did in Chicago. So I really like Taylor Rooks. I would say lately, though, I've been trying to focus less on the bigger names and learning more about like, not micro influencers, but like people who are more on my level and trying to pay attention to their work and like see stuff that they're doing. But I love Taylor Rooks and probably Maria Taylor.
Okay. Who is the WNBA MVP and why? Because, we talked about you had Stewie, Asia, but then we also got to show the Osa Thomas, Mr. Double, UMD alum, you know what I'm saying? Got to show that little hometown girl. So who was the WNBA MVP this year?
I'm going to say, I think it was a three-way tie between Asia, Stewie, and AT for sure. I think they each had MVP caliber seasons. So it is hard to like be able to really pick one specific one because they all like you can make a valid case for all of them. So I think it was a three-headed goat and they should have split it.
But you want three MVPs.
Three MVPs. First time in history.
I feel like everyone has like a different definition of MVP. Like for me, it's more so like if you take that person off the team, are they still as good? Do they still have, playoff potential? Do they still have a chance to like win the whole thing? So I think that's why for me, I more so go Alyssa Thomas, especially also like growing up in Maryland and watching her play in Maryland and then seeing her like kind of transform into like this whole WNBA star. I think for me, if you take her off the Sun, then they're not as good. But if you take Breonna Stewart off the Liberty, if you take Asia Wilson off of the Aces, not saying that they're not good in their own right, but I just feel like as far as most valuable player that's going to make your team go to that next level, I definitely think it's Alyssa Thomas.
That's true, but I think historically for the NBA, the concept of MVP was the best player on the best team. That's who we went to. And so if you think best player on the best team, the Sun aren't the best team. The best team would be the Aces or Liberty, kind of, since they're like both one. And then they're both the best player on that team. So then it's like, but the stuff Alyssa did, the stats were astronomical. Like we might never see a season like that again from anybody. So then it's like, you have to put her in those combos. But if we're going historically based off of the best player on the best team, then probably Asia Wilson or Breonna Stewart.
But the problem is,
I do think either way, like no matter how you spin it, that fourth place vote was like a bit insane.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah,
that was wild. I don't know why they did that.
I feel like the problem is though, when it comes to MVP, especially with the NBA at least, the criteria is always changing. Because, for example, talking about the WNBA obviously, but for the NBA, like Joel Embiid was the MVP this last year, and Philly wasn't the best team in the East. You know what I'm saying? Like, a couple years ago, Russell Westbrook won the MVP, and the Thunder were like the 6th seed in the West, but he was Mr. Triple-Double. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of it has to do with just narratives. You know what I'm saying? And the goalposts and the criteria for the MVP is always kind of changing. Because this year, the Nuggets were the best team in the league. Jokic was the best player, but he didn't win MVP. So it's like, what is the criteria for MVP? So I think that is a fair argument, even to Alexis's point, just about like AT and her impact on the Connecticut Sun and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's forever changing. But last one we got, and then we'll wrap it up. Biggest dating ick.
Ick.
We're gonna round table this one. We're gonna round table this one.
Biggest dating ick. Oh, okay. Mine is very specific though. I hate if I'm talking to a guy and I'm like, yeah, I work in women's sports, and they're like, oh, the women's sports, that had a lot of views this year, but only because the guys this year weren't that good. Like, who even watches the WNBA? Like, who cares about women's sports? I think that's so rude. And you're making excuses like, if I just said I work in this, why would you then proceed to say rude things about women's sports if you know this is what I do on a day-to-day? Like, that's just irritating. That might just be a me specific ick though. But I just don't like when people do that because I feel like it's rude.
100%. The hell?
What
Okay.
about you?
Your turn, Alexis.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Or this is like a pet peeve. I really hate if somebody follows me and then you DM me, I don't reply.
And then you unfollow.
You DM, I don't reply. Then you unfollow me. I just feel like, okay, you didn't care to follow me or figure out who I was as a person, because since I wasn't trying to date you or go out with you, you unfollow. You don't care about me. You don't care.
On Sunday messages, baby.
The message like you're weird.
Okay, your turn, Alexis. Your turn.
I think for me it's like being a follower. Like if like for instance, I know it might sound a little irritating, like if all your friends want to go to the steakhouse but you want sushi, like I need you to be able to put your foot down and go to that sushi place. Like I just don't really like, I definitely like a follower. Like I need the leader out the
pack. Okay. My biggest dating ick, and I'm on here with two women, so don't murder me, y'all, but I gotta speak my piece on this one. You know what I'm saying? My ick is when you're on a date with a fine young lady, a young queen, you know, and then the check come, and now they pick up their phone, or they start looking around the restaurant. You know what I mean? See, as a man, we already kind of expecting to pay for the first date, you know what I'm saying? But don't act like you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even see it. You feel me? You can at least fake the funk and be like, oh, you want to split it? Like, you know what I mean? Because then I'll be like, nah, you good, baby girl. I got it. You know what I mean? But at least if it's a first date, at least. That's my thing. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead and fake like she wants to split it with you.
You don't even gotta fake. Just that the intentionality. I want to know that at least if it came down to you will hold me down. You know what I'm saying? Don't act like you
no.
So what y'all doing?
First of all,
y'all act like y'all don't even see.
Okay, well, first of all, first date. If this is the first time you're going out with the person, why is your expectation for them to said hold you down? You don't know this. Why would I hold you down if I don't know you?
Not hold me down, but my thing is, baby, I think it's more so to act like you don't see it, act like it's not even there. Like, it's weird to me. Yeah, so y'all tell me when the check come on the first day, y'all just be what y'all do? Y'all just like act like it ain't there.
No, I'm like, thank you, thank the waiter for it, and I'm gonna watch you pay for it.
That's cool. That's cool. We gonna pay regardless. You feel me? We're gonna pay for the first date. But I just feel it be throwing me like, I don't know, like maybe that's just me, but I feel a lot of people will agree. We'll see.
I don't know. I don't think I feel like you've been in a situation where like you've dated a bunch of girls, so like that's probably happened before, but like for us, like we only know based off of like what we would do when the check comes, if that makes sense. So like if Maya's first reaction isn't to look around and play dumb, she's not gonna, I guess, identify with someone else doing that, if that makes sense. Because my thing is, if it's the first date, like I'm not going on that date with the expectation to pay. So when the bill comes, why would I act like I'm finna pay?
I think the universal rule obviously is the guy's gonna pay for the first date. So I feel like we already expecting that. But I feel like a lot of guys want to know that at least the girl's not just, I don't know, using them for a meal or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's more so the mindset behind it. That's not just like, all right, like peace. All right, you know what I'm saying? It's like the care factor like that Maya was talking about with the whole DM thing. You don't even care about me. It's like, all right, at least if the intent is, oh, hey, you want to split it? At least know that, like, all right, like, you know what I'm saying? She has a good intention behind her. Like, she's not just out here using me for a meal, for dinner, and I'm a peace out on you. It's like, all right, like she's a good person that at least cares and might want to get a second date or something like that. You feel me? Not just like, all right, bye. This was cool. I think it's the intention behind it, which is why I said like that whole thought. It's more so like, all right, where's your mind at type of thing, you know?
The only thing for me though is that if we're actually out on a first date it was hard for you to get that first date. Like it took, like I'm Miss Unlinkable, legit. So if I'm out on a first date with you, I've been talking to you for at least like a month. So you're going to know on this date, like, oh, she's here because she wanted to spend time with me, not because she wanted a free meal. Because I could take myself to go get some salmon. Like, that's not hard. So I think for me, like what you said about intentions is just, you're going to know, like, oh, okay, she's finally free to link. Let's go out. And I'm going to watch you take your wallet out to pay because you're going to pay for it. So it's not like I'm a fake and be like, oh, what? The check came.
Right. But that's what I don't like. You feel me? He's like, oh my God.
That would be weird.
And I think too, like
weird.
with the you said that like you're like sometimes you don't know if like she is just out with you for a meal. I think sometimes you just have to let things play out in time. Like, so like, let's say like, okay, you pay or whatever, and you don't really know if she just went with you just to, you know, get a meal or whatever. I feel like you won't know in that instant. I feel like time will tell. If it's like, I feel like time will tell if she actually likes you, if she actually wants to hang out with you, and if it's not just like a money or like free food thing. I think you can't necessarily base it off of that one meal.
You actually unlocked another ick, which is I don't like when guys think that girls want to talk to them for their money or for a meal or for whatever they can provide. Because it's like, that's insulting me. You're acting like I can't do it myself. You know, like I don't like when guys do that.
I'm glad that you guys are good women, man. You know, because I could tell you some stories about multiple experiences that you just be like, yo, like, you know, because like you said, Miss Unlinkable. I think the intention is there, but a lot of times stuff you be reading, you be like, damn, girl, like that's how y'all really feel out here. Like, sheesh, man. But you know, I think that, like, again, I think it just goes back to the care factor for me and like the intention behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm gonna take a girl out on a date, like I obviously want to pursue that. You know, it's not just like, oh, we just here to be here. And because like you said, if you going out on a date at this point, you could take your own self out on a date. Like, you don't need me to be here for that. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's about the care factor and the intention. So yeah, I like that.
To your point though, there are a lot of girls who will go just to get some food.
100%.
For guys, it is tricky to understand like what's the real vibe here. Yeah. You order 5 things off the menu and a to-go box. It's like,
like, excuse me, like, what's going on here, man? It's tough. More of the story, man. It's tough out here, man. But you know, we'll wrap it up, man. I just want to say, actually, no, before we wrap it up. Last question we always ask our guests: who is somebody that we should have on the What's in Your Bag podcast? But whoever you say, you got to put on your basketball shoes and hop in your point guard bag and give us the assist and help us get them on.
Oh, that's easy. I would say, you know Brett Hampton?
I do. The Celtics, Jason Tatum photographer.
I would say Brett for sure. Just because, so I just met him recently though, but after like checking out his socials, talking to him, getting to know him, I think he would be a fire guest just to hear his life experiences, because he said like he's from Boston and he had been trying to get a job at a bunch of other places and it was just a bunch of no's or like not right now. And then so he decided to start his own stuff, go his own route. And then once the Celtics were like, hey, we need somebody ASAP. Oh, well, Brett's here. He's already at the games. He's doing his own thing. Why don't we just hire him? And then it just, boom, made sense. Then now he got hired. Now he's JT's personal videographer, photographer, traveling the world on private jets, living his best life. So I think his story is really nice.
Yeah. All right, bet. So yeah, we'll, you know what I'm saying? If you could help us make that connection, man, we'd appreciate it, man. And I've come across this page a lot of times because we've had a bunch of his friends on the show, Trey Mena and Nad. They're all like, I'll be seeing them repost each other on the story all the time. So we definitely love to have him on, man. But man, we've been on here for endless. It's crazy, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time, man. But I just want to say thank you for coming on. Like I mentioned earlier, it's been super inspiring just be able to hear your journey, hear from you about how you've been able to make it to this point. I feel like I love talking to people who had the same kind of journalism background as me, and just seeing how they've been able to make a career for themselves. And so I just want to give you your flowers, man. Let you know that a lot of people are super inspired by your journey. Thank you for coming on here and sharing your story. We genuinely appreciate it. Like I said, once you're Forbes under 30 under 30, excuse me, we're going to go ahead and play that clip and manifest it on the What's in Your Bag podcast. But yeah, keep being great, keep being a light. And I'm excited to see, where your career goes from here, because I know it's nothing but spectacular things on the horizon for you.
Sheesh. Best outro ever. This was fun. Thank you, guys.
No doubt. All righty, guys. This has been another episode of the What's in Your Bag podcast presented by Bet Online. If you're still here, man, go ahead and tap that subscribe button, drop a comment, give us some feedback. It goes a long way, man. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. That's a wrap, folks. This is probably gonna be Alexis' last episode. Like I said, with her Cowboys gear, I probably won't be seeing her no more. But we'll let y'all know who her replacement will be. You know what I'm saying? But that's
all right,
folks. Until next time, peace.
Bye.
Suave. I've been in my bag for a while, I'm invincible. Story of a young boss, grinding shit get critical. Calling on my bros one time, cause you special. I had some hoop dreams of right rounds for my mental. Every target that I shoot is on point like a pencil. Different road, change relationships, I'm so sorry. Came up from the trenches and I made it, I say hardly. Now